Hello and welcome to Back to School Night. My name is Rachel Niedermayer. If you're watching this video, your child should be a part of my US2 history course. So welcome. Again, my name is Rachel Niedermayer. I'll be teaching US2 this year. It's great to have you all here. I'm sorry we couldn't be in person this year, but we're going to make the most of it. So during this video, I'm just going to be covering some of my contact information if you have any questions for me. I will also be going over our expectations and rules for the school year for your child. And then also I will be going over some topics that we'll be covering in US2. I have some slides just to present to you so everybody can see kind of what we're looking at. All right. Okay. So again, welcome to Back to School Night. So we have right here my name, and then we also have my TA's name. His name is Mr. DeBracchio. He will be in most of your students' courses. We also have Miss Crystal Morales. She is a one-to-one in my US2 history class, so she comes in and out of our classroom. All right, so first thing, just to go over some rules and expectations in my classroom. So for your children, they are enrolled in a Google Classroom. So for that Google Classroom, there is a stream opportunity. We just make sure that any commenting or posting on that Google Classroom stream is not accepted, but there is opportunities for students to make any comments or questions on specific assignments, and myself or my TA will take a look at them to address any of those issues that students may be facing. Um, for their homework or classwork, it's expected to be turned in on time, either during that day. So if it's a classroom task, they are expected to have that finished by the end of the period. And also, if there's any homework, it would be due that following day. And we'll go over when those homework assignments are going to be assigned. Specifically in class, we expect a respectful, appropriate, and on-topic conversation during my class. There's no foul language allowed or non-appropriate school topics. We always encourage our students to ask for help if they need it. Myself, Mr. Mark DeBracchio, or Miss Crystal Morales, we're all a team of making sure that all students are getting the help and support they need. We also very much encourage our students to stay on task and on topic during class. We do this by creating really engaging material for them that they are able to collaborate with. With that, for them to be able to collaborate and get that material, they need to show up on time. Most of your children have been doing a great job at this. In the beginning parts of the year, we had some schedule scrambles, but right now it seems like we're in a really good rhythm and everybody's showing up to class on time. We really encourage hand raising in school just to be sure that every student has the opportunity to be heard and share their comments. And also that way we kind of have some order in the classroom. We also really, as I mentioned, try to create those dynamic lessons where students are able to socialize with their peers and staff, just to make sure that they have those opportunities of engagement at the appropriate times. We like to talk with them. All right. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so then for my US2 course, on the slide you will see my contact information. So if you have any questions, to email me if I miss anything that you have a question on in this video, please feel free to email me at this email address, rniedermeyer@yaleschooljay.com. Or if you have any questions that you'd like to leave me a message for, you can call the school. My extension number is 870, and you can leave a message there, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Specifically for that homework for students that I was referencing earlier, homework for my class for US2 is always assigned on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So when your students come home, unless I'm told otherwise, if you're choosing to opt out of my US2 history for your child, they will be having homework on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We will have a midterm and a final. Our midterm will be sometime around January, February, and then our final will be sometime in that May, June area. If you have any questions about grades for homework or test announcements, please feel free to look at the parent portal. Also, the Google Classroom, your child does have access to Google Classroom on any computer with their login. So please feel free to take a browse at our classroom. On your own personal time at home. We also will be partaking in quizzes and tests. I always make sure to have a 3 to 5 day announcement along with a study guide for your students to make sure that everyone is fully prepared and able to be successful on these quizzes and tests. Also, I'm a big fan of projects in many different forms. I think that students oftentimes have a lot of knowledge that they want to display and are a little bit limited on those quizzes and tests. So I like to really give students the ability to express their knowledge in a more unique way. Also, for textbooks, we do have textbooks for US2, but I will say they're pretty thick. So I usually choose to not send them home. I don't want you to deal with that. So for that, I will make scans of copies if there's any opportunities where I believe a textbook page would be helpful and supplemental to your students' learning, but otherwise, you shouldn't be seeing those in the classroom. All right. And then our last thing that I really wanted to cover was some of the topics we're going to be covering this year in US2. So some topics we've already covered in the school year is wrapping up our World War One. So we're covering from that from our US1 course that your student should have already taken prior. So we're recapping World War One, kind of what our globe looks like, and then moving on to the Great Depression. Right now, we have pretty much wrapped up all of our Great Depression. I have two um, uh, courses right now of US2, and both of them are just about wrapping up our Great Depression. Moving on into October, we're going to be start touching on the New Deal and the origins of World War II. As we move into November, we'll be covering America entering World War I with Pearl Harbor and what the war looked like in Europe and in the Pacific. Then we'll be covering in December the origins of the Cold War, so what that looked like after World War II came to a close and the Cold War opens. Also, we'll be discussing specifically the impacts of the Cold War in America and how America responded to the situation. Moving forward in January, we'll be talking about post World War II America, specifically the 50s and kind of that time of our rebirth of culture. Then, specifically for the new frontier, we're going to be talking about our space travel and going beyond Earth. Then, as we go into February, we'll be talking about how our Cold War is continuing in Korea and in China. Also, we'll be talking about the Great Society. Then, as we go into March, we'll be touching on our civil rights movement. Then, as we go into April, we'll be talking about the Vietnam War, so kind of still continuing that Cold War talk. And then also talking about our counterculture that hits during this time that specifically rose due to the Vietnam War. Moving on into May, we'll be talking about politics and economics of the 80s, and then we'll also be talking about some continued civil rights movements such as women's rights, Latinos' rights, LGBTQ rights, and Native American rights. Then, as we move into June, we'll be talking about some conservatism and our war on drugs. We'll also be talking about the time of change that followed, 9/11 impacts, and then also our election of 2008, closing with the Obama period and his presidency. So those are some of our topics that we're covering. So just so you guys can see it again, here is my contact information again. If there's any questions that you have after watching this video, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to answer your questions. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you.